LA Fires 2025 Stories of Affected Older Women. California, Los Angeles. Once symbols of sunshine, angels, golden dreams, and Hollywood glamour, now shadowed by conspiracies, turmoil, and devastation. The LA fires of January 2025 burned through hundreds of thousands of acres. Homes turned to ash, lives changed forever, and whole communities are gone. Families lost everything, businesses burned to the ground, and the landscape was scarred. But the fires took a particularly heavy toll on older adults. Of the lives tragically lost, the identified victims that were women over 50 included Carolyn Burns, 56, Evelyn McClendon, 59, Laura Swain, 71, Kim Wienecke, 77, Elizabeth Morgan, 79, Diana Webb, 82, Erlene Louise Kelly, 83, Barbara Lewis, 84, Neva Whitley Friedley, 86, Annette Rosilli, mid-80s, Betty O'Meara, 94, and Elise Curry, 95. The aftermath left countless older women grappling with a harsh new reality: sudden and devastating homelessness. Already vulnerable due to their age, they now faced heartbreaking challenges in their struggle to survive. I'm Graceful Mindz, and I'm going to share stories of incredible women over 50 who survived the Los Angeles fires, lost everything, and are now rebuilding, even at their age. Anita Finnegan. At 66, Anita slept on a cot at the Wildfire Evacuation Center in the Pasadena Convention Center. Her rental home, consumed by the flames, was gone, and with it a sense of security and normalcy. 5 days after the fire, she was searching for insulin, a diabetic dependent on it for survival. She was in a wheelchair, having already survived leukemia, a bone marrow transplant, and the loss of her husband. Now, with her car burned, she had nothing but the clothes on her back. "I don't have a clue," she said. "I'm in a state of limbo." Her friend Luz could only confirm the harsh truth. She doesn't have anything. Tatris Beasley. Tatris, 64, had just finished paying off her mortgage. 13 years in her Pasadena home, with the orange trees in the back and the owl that hoots at night. She'd scrimped and saved, looking forward to a retirement free of that monthly burden. On January 8, 2025, her house burned down. All that remained were a few melted walls. No roof, no floor, just ashes where all her possessions had been. All her hard work is gone. She's staying in a hotel paid for by her church and might move in with her son. But her future, the retirement she'd planned for, is now uncertain. Tatris had looked forward to stopping the daily grind. "I want to enjoy life and live without having to get up and go to work at 6:30 in the morning," she said. She was hopeful to rebuild. She did say her orange trees survived, and maybe she'll hear that owl again soon. The fires didn't just destroy homes, they shattered routines and upended lives, leaving many older women struggling to navigate a new, uncertain reality. In a crowded shelter, 2 other women were grappling with the aftermath in very different ways. Sarah James. For Sarah, the fire exacerbated an already precarious housing situation. Before the fires, she relied on the kindness of her church community, staying with different people or in hotels. She didn't have a permanent place to call home, a stable foundation to rebuild from. At 76, the trauma of the fire and the uncertainty of her future all manifested in sleepless nights. "I close my eyes and think that I'll go to sleep," she says. "Instead, they pop open in 20 minutes and I'm wide awake." Françoise Mira. Françoise, on the other hand, had lived in her Pacific Palisades house since she was 4. A lifetime of memories at 64, her childhood teddy bear, everything turned to ashes. She'd seen the fire coming over the hill, but at first she wasn't worried. "I might have taken a little bit of a nap," she admits, but by 4 p.m. the fire had moved, and she knew she had to leave. A neighbor's son later sent her a picture, a space where that neighbor's house once stood. Françoise thinks her house is gone too. "I am 98% sure," she says. The practical challenges are overwhelming. She has her phone, but all her passwords written in a 2-inch thick book are gone. "My password book was like 2 inches thick," she says, a hint of dark humor in her voice. For now, Françoise focuses on what she can control, keeping her service dog Puff with her, refilling her 15 daily medications, getting oxygen for her COPD, finding a comb, and taking a shower. The small, essential tasks of daily living become monumental hurdles in the wake of such devastation. While many families were able to flee, the elderly and disabled faced a desperate struggle for survival. 2 of these women were at Two Palms Nursing Center. On January 7th, as fire ambushed the building, staff raced to evacuate roughly 4 dozen residents. Brenda Robinson, 76, a retired bookkeeper with a chronic tissue disease, prayed to Jehovah as an aide helped her into a wheelchair. Valerie Fine, 66, a retired teacher with multiple sclerosis, smelled smoke. "They rushed in and put N95s on us," Valerie said. "Thank God, because the facility was on fire." A nurse's assistant wheeled Valerie's bed outside, hugging her to shield her from the embers. Both women, along with others, were hoisted into vehicles and driven through heavy smoke and flames. One disoriented patient even begged to return for a long-lost dog. After a second evacuation from a temporary haven, they finally found safety at a care center in Sylmar. The staff were heroes, but for Barbara, Valerie, and the others, the future remains a terrifying question mark. Temporary refuge or new permanent home? And sometimes, the most vulnerable were left clinging to the thinnest thread of hope. Like this 100-year-old woman trapped in her Altadena Senior Living Center as the firestorm raged. Jean Poole. At Montecedro Retirement Community, Jean was deaf while trying to find a way out alone as her hearing aids were charging. Then, through the smoke-filled hallways, came Deputies Martinez and Alcones. Their body cam footage captures the raw desperation of the moment. They called out, their voices echoing in the darkness, flashlights cutting through the thick smoke. And then, a faint voice, as Jean was found. She expresses how she'd been looking for a way out. "Don't lose me," the woman pleaded, her voice trembling, lost in the intensity of the moment. "I promise you I won't," Deputy Martinez replied, with a simple promise that carried the weight of life and death. She was disoriented, struggling, her world reduced to the fear of being left behind. They never pushed her, only led her, their voices steady and soothing. At the age of 100, she was more than a number, more than a rescue. She was a life, holding on to hope, holding on to that vow. Amidst the stories of loss, there are also stories of incredible resilience and of finding opportunity in the face of devastation. Ruth Judkins. A nearly 90-year-old grandmother of 4 lost everything in the fires, her home and her possessions. But she did escape with a change of clothes and her beloved 10-year-old dog, Louis. She shared that her children and grandchildren don't need her as much as Louis does. A video of Ruth, recorded by her granddaughter, quickly went viral. In it, her surprisingly positive outlook shone through. "I know I don't need all those," she said, referring to her lost possessions. "Everything's going to be downsized. I don't need 2 closets full of clothes. I need 1." Ruth wasn't focused on what she'd lost. She was already looking ahead, determined to rebuild her home sustainably. She said, "We should be making sure that everything is sustainable and cost-effective. We have to think sustainably. We have to be in the 21st century." Her philosophy is simple. As she put it, "I'm a very positive person. I always think the best of people. I just think that way and I figure things out. Don't worry, I'll figure it out." These stories represent only a fraction of the suffering. So many more stories are out there, hidden in the aftermath, in the shelters, in the temporary housing, in the hearts of those still searching and hoping. It's time we faced a hard truth. We need to do better. We need to do better. As Anthony Mitchell Jr. so rightly pointed out, before disaster strikes, there must be a better accounting, pre-disaster, of those with special needs. The elderly, the disabled, those living alone. These are our most vulnerable community members. These fires showed us a terrible truth. We failed to protect the most vulnerable. We owe it to them to learn from this, to make sure no one is left behind again. Thank you for spending these moments with us as we shared some miraculous stories of women 50 and over surviving the devastating Los Angeles fires. If these stories moved you, please share this video. It's a simple way to help raise awareness of the challenges older adults face during disasters. I'll see you in the next video named LA Fires of 2025: How a Disaster Can Affect an Older Woman.